Welcome back to the Pair Program. I'm your host, Tim Winkler, joined again by my co-host, Mike Gruen. Mike, I saw a movie trailer the other day. Got me thinking. I've been seeing a lot of these biopics popping up. So there's one coming out about Bruce Springsteen with I think Jeremy Allen White from The Bear playing the lead. So I can see it's good actor. But I feel like we have like a ton of these that have been coming out. Like we had Chalamet came out with like Bob Dylan. There's like Elvis, Queen, Elton John. So my question for you would be, what musician do you think deserves the biopic treatment?
That's interesting. I mean, musician. So my immediate thoughts are like to some of the drummers from from back in the day, like John Bonham or something like that. So I could see like a Led Zeppelin or a Who, something like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I dig that. Yeah, I was thinking little bit more off the wall, but Andre 3000 would be a good one.
Oh, that'd be a good
from
one.
Outkast, just because he's kind of out there, a little eccentric. He had a flute playing area, a flute playing era where he had like a whole album just dedicated to the flute.
There you go.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye out. Maybe one of our picks makes the cut. But cool. Well, speaking of fascinating characters, let's shift gears and give the listeners a little preview of our guest joining us on today's episode. So we've got a couple of entrepreneurs who are leading cast members behind Frenos, which is a seed stage cybersecurity startup that's working to redefine how we secure operational technology systems or OT systems. So we've got Harry Thomas, CTO and co-founder of Frenos, alongside Colin Murphy, the chief hacking officer at Frenos. So we're going to be digging into, one of the toughest challenges in cybersecurity, which is more so protecting these physical systems that power our world. Everything from like power plants to water treatment facilities, refineries, transportation networks, pretty high stake environments, a lot of complex risk involved. Something that's obviously very top of mind given the political climate that we're in right now too. So excited to hear a little bit more, maybe feel a little sense of comfort after we get a little bit of a detail on some of the big problems these guys are solving. So Harry and Colin, thank you both for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool. All right. Now, before we dive in, we kick things off with a segment we call Pair Me Up. It's going to go around the room, spitball a pairing that could be anything of your choice. Mike, you lead us off. What do you got for us today?
So nothing controversial. Guinness and chocolate. So last night I was out with a buddy and frequently have Guinness. And then it was time for dessert. And I was reminded of just how well Guinness and chocolate go. I've been trying to cut down on the desserts lately. So it was a nice, and I've been also trying to cut down on beer. So it was a little bit of a cheat day.
I was going to say, cut down on one or the other, keep you ramp one up.
No, just cut down on both, but trying to get that beach body. But
it's the time of year.
It is that time of year.
What's the is it dark chocolate or milk chocolate? Anything?
No, I'm a dark chocolate guy. I like my beer and I like my chocolate the same, black and bitter.
Yeah, dude, Guinness is one of those that you could, drink all night and not really feel as full as it looks.
Yep.
A little deceiving in that sense.
And it's also lower on the alcohol content as well. So it's another one that you can just sort of drink. Yep.
Yeah. Good Guinness plug. Not a sponsor, but we enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to my t-shirt.
Cool, man. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go with brunch and Blackstone Grill. So this past Father's Day weekend, we hosted some friends at our house for brunch. Fired up the Blackstone. It's pretty perfect for like breakfast food. So like we did like omelets, pancakes, like bacon, can get all of that kind of going at the same time. So found it as a good use case for Blackstone. You could do stuff like hibachi, steak and cheese, but I'm going to pair it up with breakfast for the episode segment. So that's my pairing.
Nice.
And let's pass it over to our guest, Harry. Quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah, thanks. CTO, co-founder of Frenos, been in OT cybersecurity for over a decade now. And funny enough, a little fun fact about me, I used to be a nurse before I actually branched into cybersecurity. So that's pretty interesting. My pairing, is something that we were talking about just before we started recording. Beer and DraftKings. That is my pairing.
Oh yeah. Just gotta have one while you're using the using the app.
Yeah, you gotta have one while you're using the app. You gotta have a beer in hand also while you're watching the UFC fight.
That's right.
It's all intermingled.
Yeah, I feel like they're already kind of in cahoots too. It's like you're getting Bud Light or something always involved with like a collab with.
I'm waiting for them to come out with a DraftKings beer that's spelled draft DR.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. We'll trademark that thing. Yeah, I didn't know that about the nursing background. So you've already, operated in, some critical infrastructure environment. So obviously that seems like applicable when you're a user mindset when you're building.
Yeah,
that's cool. Good stuff. Thanks for joining us, Colin. Quick intro in your pairing.
Yeah. So Colin Murphy, Chief Hacking Officer at Frenos, joined in April 1st, actually, which was perfectly timed with the company I'd left. So previously I was the CIO at KnowBe4, which is a cybersecurity company. Been in and out of cybersecurity for a long time, worked in private equity, was in the deregulation energy space for about 7 years. And while at KnowBe4, I also worked for Kevin Mitnick for 7 years. So I got to hack and red team on one side and blue team really on the other. So
nice.
That was a hell of an experience.
Yeah.
So, so my pairing, and I thought of this before you guys went, but I guess we're on the beer and something team. But for me, growing up, never was a huge like smoked meat kind of guy. Then a good friend of mine one day invited me over. He did a brisket. It took like 18 hours. I was losing my mind. Smell it. And I'm like, it can't take this long, dude. Just turn up the heat. Whole process. So mine is, and I make a brisket like once a month. Like I'm super addicted. A good IPA with not too skunky and a brisket out of the smoker for about an hour. They just always taste good together.
Nice.
Damn, sounds good.
Yeah. I'm hungry. Thanks.
I'm thirsty.
You know what they say about middle-aged men? You either get into World War II or you get into smoking meats.
That's right.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. It's exactly what happened.
Yeah, Traeger's took off like during the pandemic. I remember that was like a whole like viral, TikToks of everybody just kind of showing off their smoking skills, right? It's like I don't know. It's an accomplishment, It's you work something you work on all day, and it's like it's time to bear the fruits of our labor here. That's awesome. What do you have like a smoker of choice? I just name dropped Traeger because I know a lot of my buddies.
This is not a sponsorship. So I had a Green Mountain. It wore out pretty fast. They're about equal to a Traeger. Then I did a bunch of research on Reddit, got a Yoder. There's people that have had this smoker for 10 to 12 years and they've replaced like one piece on it and that's it.
Nice.
So I'm in Florida. So this thing's out in the weather all the time and it is holding up.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
All right. Now we're all starving and
thirsty.
A little thirsty. Let's transition to the main discussion. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about how Frenos is securing these critical infrastructure systems. So I do want to start with kind of like that startup origin story, define what offense-informed defense in the OT space kind of looks like. Colin, you brought it up. I'm also intrigued to expand on this transformation from like IT to OT and, kind of hear, what you had to either, pick up, forget, stuff like that. And then we'll close with an overview of one of the newly announced tools, Optica, which is, kind of changing the game for environments with limited visibility. So let's get into it. Harry, I'll start with you. How did Frenos kind of come to be? What was that kind of we need to build this moment?
Yeah, definitely. So within operational technology, which is different from informational technology, OT or industrial control systems themselves, what they do is generally manipulate some form of physics. So if you think about like substations in electric utility, relays, open and close breakers to allow electricity to flow along the power lines and stuff like that. So that's what operational technology is. Funny enough, probably most companies out there don't know that their OT environment is actually their profit loss center. It's not the actual corporate environment. But the Frenos origin story itself is me and I have two other co-founders, Eric and Brian. Brian and I have two different stories, but it kind of originates from the same place where I used to lead research and development at Dragos, which is a visibility player in operational technology. And every time I worked with customers or clients, they installed a Dragos or a Nozomi, whatever flavor you want. And they always asked, what do I do next? And I was hit with that tough question. Even in consulting, you're always hit with that tough question, right? You hand over a report, you're asked, all right, cool. Now give me the rundown of what to do. So it took a few years actually trying to develop the Frenos platform. I actually have a long list of repository names inside my GitHub of previous ways of trying to build the Frenos platform. But from there stemmed this ability to utilize a combination of AI, artificial intelligence, large language models, and machine learning models, combined with our flavor of a digital twin. So what we do at Frenos is we take in your network configuration files from firewalls, switches. We build our version of a network replica or a network digital twin, of which then we're able to overlay the asset vulnerability information that you might get from a Dragos or a Nozomi, or even like flat CSV files. From there, we have our Syra, our simulated adversarial intelligent reasoning agent. All she does is assumes the personality and persona of threats. So, most apt this week is Iranian cyber and ransomware. And what she can do is utilize those techniques, tactics, and procedures in the ways that these threat operators work within an environment. And she's able to identify those clear attack paths. And then on the flip side, give you the prioritized risk reducing recommendations necessary to stop those adversaries or other adversaries that might mimic those from actually utilizing what we found.
Mm. Yeah, super relevant. Obviously, right now, very top of mind as everybody's thinking about how a retaliation might look, from Iran, and it's cyber's something that's obviously being spoken about quite frequently, and to be able to have that kind of simulated environment and know what those types of threats kind of look like, that's really valuable. Little quick hits on where you guys are from funding, headcount. Would love to hear that.
Yeah, so we closed our Series Seed funding back in January. Data Tribe, love those guys. They led it, 3.88 million. And then from a headcount perspective, we're probably about 20 people mixed between contractors, full-time employees, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned Dragos. We know them. They're local to the DMV area. I think they're out in Fulton, Maryland. But I think they also were a Data Tribe.
Yep, they were. It's actually where I was drinking that Guinness last night. Was over in Fulton, over at Maple Lawn, right near their office.
Yeah, security out there. Rob Emily, the CEO of Dragos, is actually on our advisory board.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Nice. Good stuff. Yeah, it's we'll get a little bit deeper into obviously some of the tools and the product suite, but Colin, I wanted to touch a little bit more on your background. Like we mentioned, it's a little bit more rooted in IT, cybersecurity. So maybe walk us through how you made that leap into the OT side of things and what that transition was like for you.
So it actually works out really well because on the IT side, doing red team engagements with Kevin's company, a lot of the time we would do the IT side of a big OT space, right? Whether it's manufacturing, oil and gas, pharmaceutical. But from the IT lens, that was rarely, we would end up there on accident, or it would be ancillary to the crown jewels of what we're looking for, right? And so having that kind of IT mentality leading towards operations and finance and data, big data, customer records, all of that intellectual property, then kind of switching that hat when I joined the Frenos team it's been pretty awesome. I mean, I feel like a newbie, to be completely honest, learning a lot from the group and seeing as we interact with customers and just the community, how much we have kind of diverged as two separate groups or industries or solutions, right? IT, very much cutting edge. We deploy things at a speed that we don't care if things break as long as it doesn't hit the dollar. No one's going to lose power. No one's going to lose their life. And in the OT space, there's a very different methodical approach to things. And so sometimes we're faced with a problem and I'm like, 1 hour, come on, we can fix that. And then you start to dig in. I'm like, oh, I would break everything. If I applied the solutions the way I've designed them in the past or tested the same way, it would be impactful, which makes sense why the concept of digital twin, why cybersecurity is taking a different path in the OT space makes sense to me now. So,
yeah, I think it's interesting the kinetic aspect of OT, right? Like the fact that it has real world implications. I mean, as a software engineer, there were a handful of things I did where it actually had you're talking loss of life type things or whatever, but for the most part, right, you could deploy something, it would break, and some people would be upset for a little while, and maybe not able to do their job, but not right. But right, you shut down air conditioning for an apartment building, and next thing you know, there's some real results from that. I think it's interesting. It's very important to sort of have that mind, like that change. And then I'm curious, like with the digital twin and that a lot of OT systems I feel like have come online or become internet enabled, but they weren't necessarily designed for that space. Is that like a good use for like digital twin, like being able to see like what gets exposed? Because I think of all these systems that, I don't know, I'm sure my HVAC was never designed to originally be online, but now it's internet accessible. And I'm curious if that's like a good use case for like digital twinning, like looking at it from that perspective, all these systems that have become internet enabled that maybe never were intended to be.
Yeah, the purpose of our digital twin and the reason why we went down that route is particularly because you can't have really any impact to operations as operations is working. That's why, like, generally red team or hackers, consultants that you hire to come perform penetration tests in operational technology, they're given like a decommissioned site or maybe a site that isn't being commissioned just yet. They're handling everything with kid gloves. The purpose of the digital twin for us is to let's unleash everything, unleash whatever we need to unleash imaginable, because these threat actors aren't having kids gloves. They're actually going to go out there and they're going to do it. And let's see what they can do. And our digital twin operates at a speed that is incomprehensible. I mean, it's the basis of it is really just a graph database, in all honesty. But it's our homegrown proprietary, patent pending graph database that allows us to scale. I mean, we're able to ingest millions, if not billions, of nodes and edges and run calculations at speeds of milliseconds. Being able to provide this information not only to our users and our customers, but being able to provide this information to our AI models to allow them to calculate just as fast and give these results.
I was going to say that's the other thing that it's probably, it just occurred to me, right? You're able to do things at a speed because you have AI agents that are doing it. You're not operating at human speed. So you're not waiting for that. You can actually simulate several hours in seconds or several days in minutes or whatever, where it might take a little while for that temperature to heat up or for that, for the outcome to be seen in the physical world.
Well,
you gonna add to that? Yeah.
Because coming from that space of, we would do big red team engagements. I mean, Kevin and Kimberly and crew were always so adamant on delivering above and beyond for any customer, right? They ran a very boutique pen testing company. But with that, you can only cover so much. But we had our scope and we had our systems and the customer would do great. It was digestible. They would always fix things, which I loved. Then we'd go test again and we'd get in again and over and over and over. And it took years for their there's cybersecurity plan and infrastructure and readiness to get to a level where we're really scrambling to get, creative and do things that, you're no longer doing the 80%, the low hanging fruit. Right now, you're a very advanced adversary. Well, 2 years ago, Frenos and Harry and their product was pitched to me by one of the co-founders. And I went, that piques my interest, because I've always wanted to do what we do on the red team side at a scale and at an accuracy that we could then deliver a prioritized list that covers much more. Now, you still have to work to secure it and burn that list down, but you're not looking at 4 years, right? And if you prioritize correctly and can rerun tests very quickly, you're speeding things up. And so, because in the end, we do what we do because not just a paycheck, but impact to a safer world, right? Nothing makes me more upset to get breach notices or, I was in the Dominican Republic for a few years with a business, literally went there to get money out to pay my staff. And there's a line out front and the bank's like, we're closed, we got hacked. And I'm like, what? That doesn't happen. Their primary server was in the lobby next to where the tellers are working. And I went, man, this isn't good. I can't pay my staff. Like, those are the types of things we work to secure. So Syra for me and Frenos was a very logical next step on my path.
Yeah, we actually have run a couple of episodes on in the cyberspace. One recently that comes to mind was empowering, the SOC, right? There's a shortage of, that type of workforce, and, burnout's a big issue in that space. Folks working 24/7, and, so this was, kind of AI empowering the SOC analyst, if you will. Do you all see, when you partner with a customer, your product's going to be, maybe adding more visibility, enhancing a lot more visibility to some of the threats as well. Do you see the need for almost an added lift in additional, team members as well, like on their side, or do you guys employ like a services side as well, in addition to the product offering when you're, turning on an engagement?
Yeah. So, quite frankly, we've built the Frenos platform to not need additional headcount in order to operate. It's actually built so intuitively and simple that, quite frankly, a lot of our customers are utilizing junior resources to operate and manage the Frenos platform and dictate the work to the architect or the other network security folks. Which is great, because now we have a human shortage of people being able to come into the cybersecurity field, but not just cybersecurity, OT cybersecurity, which is a niche within a niche, and us giving that ability to these junior resources to up level them and get them smart on the right things right now has been useful for all of our customers.
I think. Oh, just real quick. I think there's an outcome, though, that, we're bringing value to existing tools and assets and focusing effort. So there's probably going to be many scenarios where it's a justified and a much easier ask to get the right people, to get additions to a team, to go and get more Nozomi or Dragos, et cetera. Because now I don't want to start a marketing thing and call ourselves a pane of glass, or, that everyone seems to think every platform is now, but the outcome of what we do is a collaboration of all these different tools and efforts. And so I think that collectively it's giving a very focused, prioritized ROI that up levels the entire cyber team. So,
Harry, I want to pull on a thread on something on you kind of posted on LinkedIn about how we secure systems that we can't fully see. I want to talk about some more of these real world scenarios. You kind of alluded to one, obviously more recently with like the Iranian threats, but dual use is a topic that comes into play quite a bit on this podcast, just because we talk a lot with defense tech, or we also talk to startups that are aligning with critical infrastructure, if it's healthcare, cyber, national security issues. Talk to me a little bit about like that balance for you all between maybe, the commercial side of business, and then maybe some national security or defense customers, how you align, the product, team, how that differs at all? Are they all kind of aligned on the same kind of teams, or do you break those up based on you're going to be working in a NatSec, environment, you're going to be working in healthcare? I mean, they're all pretty regulated, but talk to me a little bit about that. I'm curious on like that breakdown on the dual use.
Yeah. So since the beginning of the inception of the Frenos platform, we built it in such a way where we don't really have to split focus like that. It's not like a Frankenstein platform where you're just bolting on thing after thing to, acquire customers. We've had a very clear focus and clear concept of what we need to build. So the agencies that we're talking with and such see the use of this platform kind of differently than how commercial would, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still the same features and the same original vision that we had for the platform that they're all adhering to.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, an attack on an energy plant, whatever it might be. It's a national security threat at large. So they all kind of have a little bit of a bleed right into national security implications. Let's talk about Optica for a little bit, because you just kind of rolled this out. Tell me a little bit about what it is and how it might be different from traditional like asset discovery or like kind of mapping tools.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're talking to mature cybersecurity OT organizations, we're all talking about this elusive 100% visibility, meaning deploying enough sensors or deploying enough tools out there to be able to understand 100% of your environment, know all your assets, what they are, what they speak, and what they talk, and who they talk to. Unfortunately, even the most mature of organizations are at maybe a 35% visibility. It's just so hard to deploy these sensors or to touch these technologies. I mean, you're talking about like an 8 to 12 month runway just to deploy a sensor in a substation. And we have customers that have thousands of substations. Like that, it's going to take years and years for all that to roll out. So what we came up with is Optica. Optica is our way of bridging that gap between your 35% visibility and the 100% visibility. What we do is build templates of your assets. So in OT, in industrial control systems, a lot of the assets are generally the same. If you have one line on the manufacturing floor, generally line 2, line 3, line 4, they're kind of all the same. They have all the same vulnerabilities. They have all the same protocols. So what we have developed is a way to templatize these assets utilizing either services or even just talking with the customer themselves to ascertain what these assets are, what they do, their critical functions, and their vulnerabilities. And then we can apply these asset templates or asset blueprints to network blueprints. So we're also able to find your networks that are missing visibility, and from there have a export of whatever version of asset visibility you want. So if you have a Dragos, we're able to export the asset inventory in Dragos. Run 0, Nozomi, Clarity, whatever your flavor is, whatever you want, we're able to export in those native formats and upload it into the Frenos platform, because the Frenos platform doesn't really work as well if you have a lack of asset data, right? If you don't have assets for us or for Syra to simulate against, it's all just guesswork at that point. Well, let's shift a little bit more and let's have more educated guesses by doing the manual work of talking to people, talking to the OT engineers, talking to the network engineers, and gathering that data and putting it in Optica, so then we can reach our endpoint of those risk reducing recommendations.
Very cool. How long was that in the works for? How long was the team kind of heads down on that?
We we developed it in less than a week.
I have a story on this because it came about from another problem. And this is a good kind of going back to the journey from IT to OT, because I'm like, hey, let's do this. And everyone around the table is like, we can't do that because there's no visibility. What do you not understand about no visibility? And I'm like, well, they know what they have. And they're like, well, no. And I was at RSA when this was going on. And then Harry just out of the blues, like, well, I've been working on this thing after hearing this conversation. And it was like the early stages of Optica, and it just dropped it on our laps, like as a solution. I mean, it came about in 2 days, the original form. But yeah, that's a big thing for me that I'm still kind of tackling is how real that lack of visibility is. IT, we don't have thousands of sites, right? I mean, every business I've consulted for and part of, we have a few sites. Before we had 13 large offices around the world. We knew what we had in every one of them. We built the same infrastructure. I had the same monitoring. It was easy. No one fought with me to get it in place. It took days to get it in place. That doesn't apply to the OT space. So that's probably one of the larger things that I've been grappling with.
You mean OT as code isn't a thing?
OT as code. I like it.
So I guess kind of a couple, closing questions here, maybe a 2-part question here in terms of like where you guys see like this OT security landscape heading over the next couple of years, and like big shifts that you're anticipating, and then how does that translate over to what success looks like for Frenos over the next 12 to 24 months?
So the big shift that I've been seeing is there's a lot of consolidation in cybersecurity right now, a lot of M&A, but not just that. Generally, the M&A really in IT drives what's going to eventually happen in operational technology. We're just a couple years, if not a decade, sometimes behind, depending on the type of infrastructure or tool technology we're trying to create. With the acquisition of Wiz into Google, great acquisition. Those founders, good on you.
Good for them.
Good for them. But what we've been hearing a lot through our conversations with not just investors but customers as well, especially customers that have used Wiz, which is a cloud security posture management tool. They are saying that Frenos is the OT security posture management tool for industrial control systems. They're making it akin to Wiz in its early days. So my kind of foresight within the next 12 to 18 months is we're going to be hearing a lot more of that. And we're going to be hearing a lot more of OT security posture management technologies coming into the space as well.
Nice. And what you're saying is in like 5 years, the next round of Guinnesses will be on you then.
Yes, 100%.
Yep. I'll bring the brisket.
Yeah, that's right. Nice. Any new like use cases or verticals that you're, especially excited to support? I mean, I think, what we kind of pointed out at the beginning of this one is, like I said, is top of mind for a lot of folks. It seems like these are going to be things that are going to continue to escalate, as long as there's going to be, the way that wars are kind of fought, unfortunately, in today's environment, a lot of cyber warfare. So, but do you see any, new use cases or verticals that are you may be popping up down the line?
Yeah. So your talk track about the national security, we've been actually getting a lot more interest from those agencies within the past 2 months, 3 months than we were before. So that is that new, I guess, vertical that we will be pursuing. It's a long road, obviously, selling into federal and whatnot, but they are willing to share information with us that they won't share publicly to allow us to simulate threats in higher fidelity. And that's, for me, previous hacker, and I know Colin hacker as well, to be able to simulate those types of threats in a fidelity or accuracy that is unparalleled without that information. Because quite frankly, like what happens with the Frenos platform is we're weaponizing threat intelligence, right? We're taking threat intelligence that's being deployed from Record the Future or whoever out there, and we're able to take that information, codify it into the platform, and utilize AI in order to simulate what those threats could be doing in the future. So that's yeah.
Very cool. Good stuff. All right. Thank you guys again for the work that you're doing. Securing the backbone of our infrastructure. It's stuff that maybe doesn't get the same spotlight as a lot of new shiny app security, but it's just as critical, if not more. So
I mean, I like my power grid, so yeah, I think
I did too.
This morning I got an alert on my phone from Telegram, and I stay in a bunch of these adversary groups to see what they're doing, and they're reposting something that Hacker News had said. And they were talking about the 4 key critical control systems for the missile, what's the dome in Israel?
The Iron Dome.
Iron Dome. They were saying, hey, hackers, go after a GPS, use jammers. These are tools. These are research paths. And they're trying to, I didn't even think about that, but that's critical infrastructure.
Right. I mean, that's the one thing, because I've talked to a lot of people over the years about OT, and just it's such a broad thing. It covers so many things. Whether you could be talking about planes, trains, and that you could be talking about power grids. You can be talking about all these different systems. It's where that that kinetic the computers meet actual real world, and I am kind of curious about that with you guys. Like, are there certain areas of OT that you're focused more on, because it is just such a broad thing, if you will, domain.
There's some key verticals that I think everyone's background kind of alludes to, right? And energy and manufacturing. There's some other areas though that we definitely apply. So I've been doing I'm part of what I do at Frenos is on the research side, and all those Fortinet breaches earlier in the year, pulling those into our platform. It's actually also an incident response tool. Didn't know that, but when you can model attacks against a configuration, attacks that already happened, it gives you a pretty good idea of what they probably did and where to go look for your IR program. But some of those firewalls that I ingested ended up being OT organizations, and they were at power. One's manufacturing paper products overseas, and so it's kind of useful in a lot of different verticals. But from a background standpoint, and Harry can probably give a little more background in all of the verticals, but definitely in gas and energy, manufacturing.
Yeah, we're focusing on those, but the way that Brian, our CEO, likes to put it, we have applicability to all 16 sectors of critical infrastructure as defined by CISA. So that's eventually what we're going to branch into. For me, near dear to my heart are hospitals and such like that. Protecting patient data, but just protecting lives in general. That's always what I wanted to do, and that's the reason why I've directed myself into OT cybersecurity, was because you have that that mission. I'm going to protect modern civilization as it stands right now.
Yeah, we need to hook you guys up with a former episode. We just had a guest that's building a rare earth metals refinery in the Northeast here, which you talk about the reach of rare earth metals and the impact those have of a shortage of those, or something happens to the refinery. It's another one of those critical infrastructure settings. I'll link the connection. Phoenix Tailings is the name of the company. Pretty cool stuff they're doing. And actually backed by In-Q-Tel, right? So you think about all those commercial use cases that have impacts to national security. In-Q-Tel is a big one of making those connections, so it seems real applicable. Cool. All right, we're gonna transition here to the final segments, the 5-second scramble. So you'll each get a few rapid fire questions. Try to answer under 5 seconds. Mike, you lead us off with Colin, then I'll close with Harry.
Sounds good. Colin, you ready?
I'm not ready. Let's do it.
All right, sounds perfect. That's the right answer. If Frenos were an animal, what animal would it be?
Aardvark.
Nice.
First time answer.
What's your favorite part of the culture there?
International, right? We're global. Everyone works remote.
Cool. What tech roles are you hiring for in the next 6 to 12 months?
AI and SRE platform lead.
Okay. What's one thing about OT you think would surprise people to learn?
I mean, everyone I know from IT would be the lack of visibility.
What was your favorite toy growing up?
G.I. Joe.
What was the first thing you ever hacked?
A state. It was long ago. I was a little kid. Let me put that out there. It was a state server farm.
Oh, nice. What was your first car?
First car was a BMW, an 83.
Okay. Is there a charity or cause that's near and dear to you?
So a few years ago, we had a couple hurricanes hit Florida. I joined the Cajun Navy and got to see firsthand what they do, and went and volunteered for 2 weeks with them. And we were there when FEMA wasn't. So
nice. Wow. Today I learned there's a Cajun Navy. I had not heard of that.
Katrina. They came out of Katrina.
Yep. Makes sense. Cool. What's a surprising hobby of yours?
Man, I just had this conversation with my wife this morning. I have too many. I build firearms. I make my own guns.
Oh, cool. Nice. And last one, if you could live in any fictional universe, which would you choose?
Any fictional universe. Dune.
All right. Strong. Very good. Very strong. Very quick. That was nice.
It's the second Chalamet reference in the episode too. Had him on the Bob Dylan biopic, and then Dune. Yeah. Cool. Nice. Harry, you ready?
Oh yeah.
All right. Pitch Frenos to me as if I was a 5-year-old.
You have maybe one apple, and there are more apples inside a basket, and you don't know how many apples are there. So you then ask your mom.
So where is the mom?
the mom platform. Nice. What's one word that you would use to describe the OT security space right now?
Progressing.
What kind of technologist do you say thrives at Frenos?
Can I swear?
Sure.
Get shit done. Mm-hmm. That's the type of people.
Nice. What is one of the most underrated skills in cyber offense?
Communication.
What's one emerging tech that you think is kind of overhyped in cybersecurity?
Large language models like chatbots and wrappers.
What's the weirdest job that you've ever had?
The weirdest job. Yeah. So I was, before I became a nurse, I was a licensed nursing assistant, and I used to handle things from bodily fluids that most people would refuse to.
Yeah, just seen some shit, I'm sure.
Literally.
My wife did that for a few years. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, God bless those folks, though, man. They need them. Aside from your phone, what's a tech gadget that you can't live without?
A guitar tuner.
Nice. If you could have dinner with any technologist, past or present, who would it be with?
It's a cliche, but Steve Jobs.
A charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
Alzheimer's. Walk to end Alzheimer's.
And then last one, what is one thing that is still on your bucket list?
I want to skydive. I've never been.
Nice. Good stuff, man. All right, that's a wrap. Again, Harry, Colin, congrats on continuing to build Frenos and solving these big world problems globally. Thank you guys for joining us and wishing you guys continued success. So thanks for hanging out with us on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.